Ladies and gentlemen, alongside the old Senator Hot Stove, which I'm blocking today a little bit, it is the Sens Nation podcast, brought to you by Jim K. Ford. Coming up today, we got lots to get to. The Sens start a road trip in fine fashion with a couple of victories over the Californians. Thomas Chabot, is he hurt again? We'll talk about some possible trade talk chatter that's out there. It is Steve Warne along with the coach, Gregg Kennedy, as Big Voice just mentioned. By the way, I'm retiring Big Voice. I've had a few people saying they don't like Big Voice that much. Just get into the show. Let's go. None of that at the end, subscribe here and do that and stuff. So Big Voice, this was his final journey with us. Will you miss him, Gregg?
Yes, I will. I will miss Big Voice. I love Big Voice. Who doesn't like hearing some guy like that say your name? Come on.
It's true. It's kind of cool. I'll do my Big Voice at the start of the show and at the end of it. That's another thing people give me a hard time for. You at the end of the show, you do all these things, do this, do that, and then the Big Voice comes in and says the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, I suppose. Yeah, but it's not radio, right? So get into the podcast. And that's probably a good idea right here at this moment in time. I don't have a shiner right now from beer league hockey or something right now, fighting a little bit of an eye infection. That's why that looks as ridiculous as it does. But let's get into things. Senators with a couple of nice wins to start out their road trip, a 7-game road trip. And they come up with a couple of 3-2 comeback victories over both Anaheim and San Jose. And, Gregg, a pretty nice start all in all.
Yep, 2 tidy, efficient road wins. You go on the road, and sometimes that's a blessing, and sometimes it's not. But this is one of those times where it's been very good for them. Get together, some bonding time, some figure some things out time, some let's play the right way. They keep the streak alive of not allowing 3 goals. I don't think they've allowed 3 goals all month of November. Looking good, playing the way they're supposed to play. A little bit of a slow start in both games maybe, but got things together in the end, and we're the dominant team and full force dominant performances, good for the fully deserving of the 4 points. I've liked their game the last 2 nights, or last 2 games.
Yeah, a slow start against San Jose, like a minute and a half in, Will Smith, and that was a real slap in the face. Starts out with a goal, but credit the Sens video team. They see an offside opportunity, and they got that one wiped off the board, and that changes the complexion of the game in the early going, and the Sens end up scoring first. The game was marked by the fact that Thomas Chabot was back in the lineup. He's been out since November 11th, and the club is concerned with their left side depth already, with Chabot getting injured. Now it's tested. So they go out and get Dennis Gilbert, reacquiring him from the Philadelphia Flyers. It's an odd deal, but they take care. They kind of kill 2 birds. They solve their Max Gwinnett contract problem, sending him to Philly. The Flyers re-sign him, and Gilbert returns to Ottawa. And so, okay, there's some decent depth again. But at the end of that game against San Jose on Saturday night, Thomas Chabot, on a simple follow-through on a late-game power play opportunity, it's a wrist shot from the point, and just winces in pain. And I don't know, and he's on the bench, and he's looking uncomfortable. There was no follow-up, as there never is. Like, Travis Green just seems to hold that like a badge of honor, doesn't he? Like, I'm going to hold back all the injury information from you, whatever. So maybe Chabot's hurt again, and now the left side, Dennis Gilbert's going to have to come in. I don't know. So first question, I guess, would be, do you think maybe Chabot came back too early, given the left shot depth issues? Gilbert's not ready either. Did he push it maybe?
Well, the problem is we never really did get the full answer on what the injury was, but the way he got hit into the boards, kind of his back and leaning over the boards, it was more of his left side, and that last night definitely looked like his left side, some kind of abdominal strain or something. He looked like he stretched something and it didn't feel too good. But the initial reports were it's no big deal. He'll be fine. So we'll see, I guess. But I don't think Dennis Gilbert is the replacement answer we're looking for. But I assume Chabot will be okay from what I've heard so far, and I'd like to think that he's going to be all right because you kind of need him in the lineup because, as we've discussed ad nauseum, left side D is a bit of a weakness here. They really need to find somebody with some NHL games experience who can be the seventh guy when necessary.
Gilbert hasn't played since the end of October. He's been injured with Philly, and so he's been out of Lehigh Valley's lineup, and he goes to Belleville, and he's supposed to get some games this weekend. I didn't check the box score to see if he started in their last game, which they got worked over pretty well in Laval, I want to say. A couple of games, either in Laval or Rochester. I should be following the AHL closer than I am. Anyway, he is supposed to get some games this weekend, and maybe he can rejoin the team if Chabot's out. But you also had Lassie Thompson. He was the initial plan, sort of plan B, their seventh defenseman for this long road trip. But with Chabot's return, they sent him back to Belleville, so maybe he comes back. Hard to say exactly, but yeah, not ideal across the board. Also on the injury front, Ridley Gregg is just suddenly absent, and they're not really talking about what's going on with him. And I think what we're seeing a little bit when we talk about information coming off the road, obviously I don't travel with the team. I know that a lot of the, Sportsnet, Post Media, The Athletic does a little. There's just not a lot of people traveling media-wise with the team, so you're not necessarily getting all the information. You get Jackson Starr there, who works for the Senators as their host, but there's not a lot of not a lot of information being disseminated. So Ridley Gregg is suddenly day to day or something like that. You're not necessarily getting the full picture, are you, with the current media climate being what it is?
Exactly. And the original reports on Ridley Gregg were he was going to miss the Anaheim game, but would be back for the San Jose game. Well, that didn't happen. And then, as you just pointed out, there's nobody there to ask that question post-game. I mean, Jackson Starr works for the team. He's going to tell you what the team wants the public to know. So there's nobody there to ask these questions. It's a little frustrating, right? It's bad enough that we get lower body, upper body, and you don't actually get anything specific anymore injury-wise in this league for a long time now. But it would be nice to know from a fan standpoint exactly what's going on, who's got what injury, and what a little more information other than day to day or week to week. That's all you seem to get nowadays. Lower body injury out week to week. It makes it frustrating as a fan to know what's going on with your club.
Yeah. I mean, they want their customer base to be fanatics. That's why we say fan. They want them to be fanatical. They want them to be passionate about the team. They want them consuming all the time. And I think the media team, led by Ian Mendez and the communications group, they're putting some amazing content out there. Really, really good. But when it comes to the injuries, that's part of it. They want people to be all over this team and just right into it, and just, I don't know, leaving them in the dark. I don't know. I don't care for the way they handle that. Just give us upper body, lower body, what's coming up. Not to mention how many people the NHL are encouraging to get into the gambling side of things. That people would want to know from that perspective as well. So, you even saw it with Lars Eller. I think the day before they left, Lars Eller wasn't supposed to play in the Anaheim game, and there was nothing about Gregg being hurt. And then all of a sudden, Lars Eller's on the trip, and he's playing tonight, and Gregg is suddenly out of the lineup. It just, I don't know, it's a bit frustrating. Not the end of the world or anything like that, but it's sort of a nuisance thing that I think, rubs people the wrong way a little bit. Brady Tkachuk, thankfully we have his podcast to keep an eye on what his health situation is, because he's putting stuff out there weekly now about where he's at, and it sounds like he's targeting in and around Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving in America is this coming Thursday. The Sens have games on either side of that. They've got Vegas on Wednesday, and then they've got St. Louis on Friday, which is great for Tkachuk because he'll be home with family probably for a Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving Day. But he also targets one of those games potentially for his return. And how huge will that be for this organization?
Well, it'd be really nice, especially since they've seemed to have turned some things around here, and they're playing very well without him lately. Just to slide him right in effortlessly, seamlessly, he just slips right in there, and the depth suddenly changes around. You've got players who are playing very well on other lines who won't be affected, right? Anyway, Brady steps in. Your second line's doing just fine. Your third line's doing just fine. This is big news, really big, not big news. This is big development to get Brady back into the lineup. I'm looking forward to seeing how the team then moves on and gets through December with Brady back fully healthy. Like this is going to be something to see. Like they're doing really well here, Steve. Surprisingly, I think to a certain extent, considering Brady's been out, and now it should be slide right in and keep going, boys, keep rolling.
Yeah, just unbelievable, really, when you think about it. Because when Kachuk got hurt, we were all saying kind of the same thing. Oh, he's out 6 to 8 weeks, so the Sens are going to have to work hard to kind of keep their head above water while the captain is out, the guy who drags them into the fight and all that. Well, they've actually been fantastic in his absence, and 2-4-1 was what they started the year at. Like, how surprised are you that since Kachuk was, I think he's played 3 games of that 2-4-1 start. But after that, and maybe there was a bit of a shock factor for the roster. Oh my God, we're without our captain. But in the last 14 games, their record is 9-2-3, all without Brady Kachuk. Are you surprised they've been that good?
Oh yeah, definitely surprised they've been that good. There was some weaker opponents through that stretch there, but still, anyone who thinks that they were going to do that kind of a record, please, was it 9-2-3? You said anyone who predicted that is a genius, and go open your act in Vegas. I just nobody would have thought that. It's pretty darn good. The points they're piling up. We talked about this last week. The games they were losing in shootouts or losing in OT. You know what? It's a point. Rack up the points while you can, especially with Brady's out. Just keep racking up points, and that's all they've done. A lot of things have gone into that. The team is playing way better. They seem to have settled in as far as their defensive play goes, much better. Linus Ullmark has been very, very good for a couple of weeks now. A lot of things have come together, and then you're just going to add Brady into that mix. It should, like I say, December is going to be fun to watch. This team should be rolling through December.
11-6-4 is their record right now, and they're hovering near the top of the Atlantic Division, though most teams are. But they're right there near the top. Yeah, I think Detroit is leading the way, if I'm not mistaken. I think they have a point on the Sens right now. But, yeah, who'd have thunk it without Brady Kachuk? They've had some injuries, and they really haven't had the best out of their goaltending. Though Linus Ullmark is coming around, isn't he? Like, if you look at his last 5 games, the San Jose game being the exception, the 4 previous, he was above 900 in save percentage. I think he was just below in the San Jose victory because he only had like 17 shots or something like that. But Linus Ullmark is starting to play better. Would you agree with that?
Definitely, most definitely. He looks much more in control, much more in command. He looks much more comfortable. Can I say that? Like all that talk earlier in the year
Yep.
about his screenshot save percentage is so low and all that stuff. Well, he's getting comfortable. He's good to go. It's mainly the guys in front of him. I think he sees a lot more shots. Hey, they give up a hell of a lot less now than they were earlier in the year too. Like there were nights when you watch them and first period they've only given up like 5 or 6 shots at some points, right? And those lengthy stretches of no defensive zone time or no shots against have returned to their game now. It's the smothering, it's the forecheck, it's the tracking on the back check, it's being above your check, it's just people being numbers on the back check. It's just been so much better. You've just watched it get better and better and better since October that they've settled in. And they're now playing Travis Green, Ottawa Senator hockey, and they're rewarded for it with points most nights.
Show me a great goalie, I'll show you great defense being played in front of him, as you kind of just alluded to there. The goalie graveyard effect, I fully believe that a large part of that is the scrambly defense that's been played through most of the rebuild. And as the team under Travis Green gets more organized and more committed to defense, whether it's Linus Ullmark or somebody else, the goalie gets a comfort level, like you just mentioned, that isn't there during the scrambliness. Scrambliness, trademark. I think Linus Ullmark not only finds a comfort level in that, but I think as games march on, the confidence just swells. I don't think that's a goalie that's necessarily the kind that stands on his head in the midst in behind a team that doesn't have his act together defensively. And he's been a streaky goalie in a short time here, in a year and change. He like a 7-game winning streak, but during some downtime, he had some rough patches as well, and also injury prone. So he's fully healthy now, and there were some sketchy moments early on, but as the team gets more stable in front of him and piles up victories, I think there's a strut and a swagger that emerges in Linus Ullmark, and I think we're starting to see that
Mhm.
right now.
How about
Now,
the fact that he
let's move on to
started
the trade.
17 games?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
shocker
he's
too,
on
right?
yeah, I think he's on. It's always health, but I think if health stays his way, unlike with Jeremy Swayman, where Swayman could come in and start a whole bunch of games if Ullmark goes cold or Swaymark got hot. Swaymark, that's sort of what it was, like Brangelina. But when Swayman would get hot, they'd leave him in there for a while. I don't think that status is there. So, barring injury, I think he's going to absolutely smoke his previous career best in terms of games played in a season, which is, I think, 49. I think he's going to be up close to 60 at this rate.
Exactly. Like this trip, everybody talk about this 7-game road trip. Well, they're every other day. He could conceivably play every game of this road trip. I don't see why not. Like, unless he's hurt or tired or something, he could, there's no back to backs. He could pretty much play every game of this road trip. He's at, what have they played? 21, 22 games, and he's played 17 of them. Like, that's what you want out of a number one goalie. Maybe not perfect storm. You'd like the other guy to play 25 or 30, but I think while you're banking points with this guy and he's feeling good, you just keep playing him. Eventually, yeah, he's going to need a rest sometime this trip. He's not going to play every game, although even though I just said he probably could, he's not going to, and that's fine. But now you can better pick and choose when to put Marilainen in because Olmark's playing so well. It's more a matter of when do you want a night off, Ollie? We'll give you one. It's not a mandatory, we better take him out tonight because he wasn't good last game. No, now it's more about his personal situation. Are you good to go tonight or do you want a night off? And then you can work around that.
All right, moving on to the trade front. We already talked about the Gilbert for Gwinnett trade, and that was just stopgap, sort of a Band-Aid type of a deal. This isn't the kind of deal we're talking about when Elliot Friedman wrote this week in 32 Thoughts about the Senators being out there lurking, is how Elliot put it. They're out there lurking, looking to hit a home run on the trade market. I don't believe that's something that's imminent, but Steve Stais has gone down this road before talking about setting the table for a trade, laying the groundwork for a trade later on, maybe closer to the deadline when there might be more dance partners. I think right now you've only got Calgary, St. Louis, and Nashville that may be starting to think about we're not that good and probably not a playoff team. The rest of the league is still like within 4 or 5 points of a playoff spot right now. So there are not many dance partners out there. But Elliot's saying that Stais is out there. He's working the phones, and he's looking to make a home run type of a trade in the market. And that would lead to the next question. What exactly do the Ottawa Senators need, if anything, right now?
Well, first of all, I find it strange that we're attaching the word home run. I can see them making a trade, yes, but a home run, to me, a home run means you're getting a really good player. Well, if you're the Ottawa Senators, to get a really good player, you got to give up a really good player. And I don't know who that would be. Do you give up a Ridley Gregg? Does that really get you something? I don't know. I don't see anything where they can acquire where they can make a star for star trade. Because to answer your question, I think what is Steve Stais looking for? He's probably still looking for a top six forward. Obviously, he's obviously looking for a left shot D. And I think other than that, it's depth guys. It's bottom six guys. It's 5-6 defensemen. But I don't even know that you need a 5-6 defenseman right now. If you can get a defenseman who can play in your top four on the left side, if you don't think you already have it here, then maybe that's something you go look for. But I don't see them looking for anything other than a top six guy and depth forward, depth D. Like what are you thinking?
I'd like to see them be a little more physically robust on defense. I don't really have a problem with the guys that they're capable of putting out there at forward right now, assuming everybody gets healthy soon. You're going to reinsert Tkachuk and probably Gregg here in the next few days. And then when you start to think about how everybody slots in after that, Halliday goes back to Belleville. I'm happy with the forwards. I think they can get by. I went into this season calling the Senators contenders right now, in large part because of the depth at forward. I think they're fine there. I think you can win a cup with that. I do. But
Wow.
sure, it'd be nice to add another. It would be nice to add another forward. That's again more robust, that is a little more winning pedigree, that statistically puts up bigger numbers. Sure, that'd be great. Every team would love to add that. But a game breaker, that's a great word. But on defense, I think the bigger thing is, that Radko Gudas type of a player. What a jerk he is. You see him snowing. He snowed Linus Ullmark. What are you, 5? Jesus. Anyway, but that guy's a miserable SOB to play against at playoff time. Helped Florida win a cup a couple of years ago. So, yeah, I'd like to see a little physicality on the back end, even if it means you have to surrender a defenseman. Yeah, that would probably be the thing I'm looking at. And I wonder, is it a concern about involving picks and prospects, given the number of kind of go for it trades that have already been made, giving up some of that picks and prospect capital? You think about the deal for Alex DeBrincat and the deal for Jacob Chikrin. They got things back when they flipped those guys, yes, but the overall picks and prospects cupboard, the strength of those assets were weakened by those deals. Do you still have it, if you're a GM in the NHL, in the back of your head that win or lose this window of opportunity on the other side? I don't want us to be completely, going through a rebuild that makes the last one look like a summer vacation. Is that ever in the back of your head, or you just go for it no matter what?
Well, I think the one thing that's going to prevent that from happening, Steve, is they don't have a lot to play with. They don't have a lot of picks. They don't have a lot of grade A prospects. I mean, the 2 defensemen the last 2 years, okay, but they haven't established themselves in any way, right? Neither one of them is playing in the NHL right now. So really, you're looking at an American League defenseman and an NCAA defenseman are probably their 2 top prospects. Beyond that, there's not a lot there. So it's not like there's somebody lounging around who, hey, this guy could score 30 goals, 35 goals in a show one day. We could probably entice somebody to make a little deal there. But they don't have a first. As of today, they don't have a first coming up this summer. So there's not a lot in the cupboard for them to trade. So in a sense, this handcuffing is maybe a good thing. It will prevent them from getting burned. I'm not saying that they're going to make a trade and get burned even if they had those things. Maybe they would make a great deal if they had some prospects and some picks. But just the fact that they don't makes it almost impossible to get really burned in a trade right now. And I'll go back to the same point. To me, they don't have enough to get what they need. Other than what you've said, I'll go with you on that one. Yeah, a big, strong, mean Anton Volchenkov defenseman, right? Even a Mark Mafat type defenseman. Somebody's big, strong, physical, mean, hard to play against. It'd be nice to have 2 of those added to the roster. So that's not going to cost you like a first overall, or it shouldn't cost you a serious prospect. But if they're looking to get the game breaker, if they're what did Elliott call the trade again? Home run. If they're looking to
Home
make
run.
a big, if they're looking to make a big deal, they don't have what's required unless they're giving up one of the 2 kids, the last 2 draft picks. Otherwise, they don't have what's required to get that game breaker up front.
Yeah, Cardi Yakimchuk, Logan Hensler. You've also got your number 1 pick in 27 and 28 and onward. You could be looking at those guys as well. Just how much of the future do you want to give up, and how much will you be able to improve? It has to make sense. The door is always open for those sorts of things. I'm always me. I like Thomas Chabot when the Ottawa Senators have the puck. I do. But when they don't, is that going to work at playoff time? So, and then I also look at a guy like, Artem Zub. He's not a guy that's thundering guys out there as well. I see a guy who loves to poke check. My goodness, when you look at that Anaheim game where Gauthier and Seneke are coming in and he's like fishing for it. Like Gauthier got off a shot or an attempt at a shot, completely whiffs on it, and Zub is still backing in and still kind of fishing with his poke checks. And Gauthier goes around him, and he still has time to make a pass on top of that over to Seneke for the goal. I just see a lot of guys, you can get away with that at times, the all poke check scenario. But if you're not making the opposing forwards honor the potential that they could end up on their ass while they try and dangle you, and maybe one or two guys in the lineup might be able to do that. Right now, only Clevin can do that. Everybody else is kind of in there, kind of poke checking and trying to knock things away. Nobody else is that thunder type of possibility. So I just think opposing forwards right now are way too comfortable when they play the Ottawa Senators defense.
So are you proposing then that possible trade chip pieces from this team are Thomas Chabot, maybe Zub? I'm saying Ridley Gregg is. I'm talking of quality, a quality trade chip. Those are probably the only three that you're willing to move right now. Like you can't. We always talk about the Drake, but you can't. You can't move the Drake right now. He's producing offensively and doing what you ask of him. And he's probably going to score 25 to 30 goals. So you don't need to trade him to get. You're going to have to get a 50 or 60 goal scorer, but then you've lost Drake's offense. So you can't trade Batherson. I really don't see anything other than the two defensemen you mentioned and maybe a Ridley Gregg. I mean, I used to think maybe a Pinto. I always used to say it was Pinto or Gregg. Like one of the two would go in a deal to get a guy higher up in the lineup. But you can't trade Shane Pinto now. So really, what do they have? The two firsts, 27 and 28, okay. Hensler, yeah, okay. What else? What else is there, buddy?
Yeah, I think the guy that I would look at if you're asking me to target someone beyond what we've talked about, again, Hensler, Yakimchuk, you've got a first in 27 and 28. And then the defenseman we talked about. It's not that I disrespect the defenseman that were indicated there, but it's a lot like the way you traded out Chychrun for a guy like Jensen because you're rebalancing the roster, getting the type of defenseman you need. I think that same trade has to happen one more time. Not looking for swapping out two or three of these guys. I think that deal, that same kind of Jensen Chychrun deal has to happen one more time. But one other name I would throw out there as a possible trade chip, because I think he's doing some good things right now, and he's certainly exciting people in terms of offensive production. But I think he's going to hurt you defensively. I see this player being where Drake Batherson was defensively 2 years ago. 3 years ago. And maybe he'll get it, but it's not there now. And that's Dylan Cousins.
Yep.
I see a guy who completely wanders. He wanders in defensive coverage. A great example of it was, I think it was the Anaheim game. Yeah, it was leading to that play with Zub and Cutter Gauthier that I was talking about. It's a 3-on-3, completely safe play. You have numbers. It's a 3-on-3. You've got, I think it was Troy Terry busting in. I'm not sure, down the right wing. No, it was Leo Carlson coming down. He was coming down the right wing, and Jake Sanderson's over there. He's got him, and it's a 3-on-3. And all of a sudden, Dylan Cousins veers over to cover a guy who's already covered. Just an example of the concerns I have about Cousins and his tendency to float in defensive coverage. We saw it in the playoffs last year. So he's doing some really good things offensively. And I think there's some excitability about the player where you could bring someone in. And again, it's not a disrespect to the player. It's more about that rebalancing effect. Do something with Cousins to bring in a player that fits better with the organization at this stage. And by the way, Ridley Gregg is still capable of playing center on your third line, and you could put Pinto in the number 2 spot.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Yes, Dylan Cousins on that play just kind of faded over there. He had the mid lane guy and left him alone. Perfect. Yeah, you nailed that one. I'm just wondering about Dylan Cousins. You just, well, not just, but you've recently acquired him. Does he not deserve a little bit of time under a different coaching staff now to try to get his game to the level that it needs to be on the defensive side of the puck? Do you not give a little bit of wait time there and work with him, and hopefully you can take a stab at trying to fix him, even though he probably had 4 different coaching staffs in Buffalo try to fix him. But anyway, do you not give it a little more time? I agree with you perfectly. Pinto moves up, Ridley Gregg moves into the 3 hole, everything's perfect. But that's why I used to say that Pinto was the guy, especially after you acquired Cousins. So Pinto's the guy you move out. Now you've signed Pinto. Is Cousins the guy you move out, as you just propositioned here? I don't know. I think it's maybe too early in the Dylan Cousins career in Ottawa to be doing that. Maybe trade deadline time, but I'd be giving that guy a few more months to figure some things out and give the coaching staff some time to work with him to see where he's at and where you can get him to.
Yeah, laying groundwork is all I'm talking about right now, and that's I think what Staios is actually doing. And I'm not advocating for any kind of a trade right now, just because there are so few dance partners out there right now. But yeah, I mean, I see your point for sure, and I think you will get that time because I think it just makes more sense to make the deal closer to the deadline. And you know, I'll reserve the right to change my mind about Cousins if I see him kind of cleaning up his defensive act. But if you're going to give that guy second line center minutes and opportunities out there in the craziness of the Stanley Cup playoffs, where even the smallest sins on defense can cost you a series. I just feel like if you can get someone back for him that makes more sense right now, not that he doesn't make sense, that's a poor way of putting it, but it's one of those things you've got to give something to get something. And if you ask me the question of guys that I might target as trade chips, that would be a guy that I'd probably include in my arsenal as I'm calling up other general managers.
Up on the housetop. Oh, hey. It's Steve here for Celebrate. I'm just putting on my old school Christmas lights with these obnoxious little plastic clips in minus 30-degree temperature at the top of this ladder 12 feet off the ground. No, I'm not doing any of that anymore. No, sir. Celebrate.ca. I urge you to check them out today.
Celebrate is your permanent holiday lighting solution. So many options. St. Paddy's Day green, Team Canada red and white, orange for Halloween, and the beautiful colors of Christmas. And Celebrate is all controlled from your smartphone.
And Celebrate's installers were absolutely fantastic and professional. I urge you to check them out today. Celebrate.ca. It's a wobbly ladder.
All right, the Sens Nation podcast is brought to you in part by our good friends at Midas. Gregg, what's shaking?
Well, the big thing being, Steve, it's tire season. Get your tires on. And I know there's places in town where it's first come, first serve. But, the ride at Disney World is first come, first serve too, folks. It doesn't mean you're not going to line up. You call up a Midas or online and you can make an appointment. You pick the date. You pick the time. They'll work with you to find something convenient for you if that time specifically isn't available. And you can go in on your time whenever it's convenient for you. Sit there in the waiting room while they do your tires for you. Best thing in the world. It beats sitting in the car waiting in line. Get in any one of the 5, Orleans, Bank Street, Bronson, Bell's Corners, or Gatineau. Make an appointment today to get your tires on for the winter.
Some roster shuffling this week. We had Ole Lixell get placed on waivers, presumably for the purpose of being reassigned, though on Sunday morning on the American Hockey League website, it has not happened yet. That was to make room for Stephen Halliday. I'm going through Doc Halliday. I'm going through Roy Halliday. Stephen Halliday comes up from the minors, the leading scorer for the Belleville Senators. And didn't he have a great point in the game against Anaheim? A beautiful assist on Shane Pinto's game-time goal.
Yeah, he looks good. He's an offensive guy. He's a guy back in the summer. I was touting him to maybe make the team out of camp. I thought he might have a decent shot here. And who knows? Maybe he does. He keeps playing like he's played these last 2 games. Maybe he gets a shot at some point to stay and actually have a role, or he just gets sent down next week as soon as somebody returns. Right? Who knows?
Yeah. That's the likely thing. They've got a lot of good bodies right now. Once Tkachuk and Gregg get back, I don't see him staying for very long, but good to get a taste. And to get a point in his first game, and now he can go back. He's got a sense of what he has to do, the difference in pace between NHL and American Hockey League. Good to see him up. I think it was a good time for it. It's not like, Ole Lixell, he's been a good pro, and he's a guy that I think for the rest of his career is probably going to be bouncing up and down between any given NHL team and their American Hockey League affiliate. So it wasn't like nobody's nose was at a joint that he comes up at a good time when there are injuries as well. Lassie Thompson also sent down to the minors. We mentioned that already. He was up because of the Chabot injury, and he goes down because Chabot returns. We'll see what happens with him and how they decide to replace Chabot. Nick Cousins got a fine for diving, his second dive of the season. And there's an Instagram account, Gregg, that keeps track of NHL divers with standings seasonally and career-wise, and Nick Cousins won't be very happy that he tucks in at number 2 since this site started in 2019 as the second biggest diver with 9 behind only Jonathan Marchessault, who now plays for the Nashville Predators. I'm glad to see a site like that, though, because it doesn't seem like the NHL does, you got a $2,000 fine, whoop-de-doo. If you want to, I think the bigger thing than the money is the stigma of being labeled a diver, and it's good to see there's a site out there that does that.
Well, when the NHL first brought this in, these fines for diving, escalating fines for diving, they were releasing the information regularly and standings just like that. But then the Players Association got a little upset, and players are embarrassed, and we don't need that information out there. Well, you're doing something stupid. You're doing something that is embarrassing. You should be further embarrassed. Everyone should know about it. Diving, stupid. The one that I still think they need to fix the penalty. Because there isn't actually a penalty for diving, Steve. The penalty is for embellishment. So that's why you always get hooking on you, embellishment on you, because that was a hook. You embellished. He didn't dive. He just sold it a little too hard. So that's why it's embellishment. There is no actual penalty for diving unless they want to call a unsportsmanlike conduct on somebody for being stupid. But I think that whole idea of 1-and-1 penalties is really irritating. But you kind of have to, because we're not calling it a dive. We're just saying you embellished the foul that guy committed against you. So it's kind of silly that sense. But I think it's great they're printing it. I'd love to see the list. You have to send me the link so I can look at the rest of that list. I'd love to see it.
I will send it to you. Yeah, the way the massive escalating fines go, and it's all money that they have probably under the floor mat of their Mercedes the next time they get their cars detailed. It's right there. Okay, I'll pay you with that. It goes. So it's a freebie. You get one freebie. The second one, if they get you, that's $2,000, and then it goes up each one, and then caps it at $5,000. I think what does that work out to? The sixth. So it caps at $5,000. 6 dives and everything beyond that, 5,000. But I think at the number 4 dive, then the coach starts getting dinged as well. So the guy, if you start offending the guy who controls your ice time, that might also be a better deterrent than the actual cash involved. So yeah, if I'm to go after some NHL rule that comes top of mind, was the game against San Jose on Saturday night, where you had Michael Amadio basically tap the stick of a San Jose player and it came flying out of his hand. Like, why is that an automatic call? Like, the contact with the opponent's stick, with your stick, and the guy drops it, it's automatic. Like, the guy had one hand on the stick and he's kind of reaching in the process as well. He might have been holding it by his fingertips. Why can't that be a judgment call, Gregg?
Well, I think it is a judgment call. And in their judgment, they called it. Like, he wasn't near the puck. He wasn't handling the puck. Like, Amadio's just trying to clear a passing lane for somebody to feed him if they need to, and he's knocking that stick out of the way. Like, he did it on purpose. He was trying to get the guy's stick out of the way. Not necessarily knock it out of his hand, but he was trying to get the stick out of the passing lane. So there was a concerted effort there to whack this stick and move it. Maybe not move it 10 feet up in the air and have it tomahawk around in the air, but he was trying to get the stick to move, and he was successful. And then the whole thing was sold with the, oh my God, I lost my stick. What's going on? Right? There was a hell of a sales job on it too. So I don't know. It's a penalty, but you want an embellishment. That probably should have been an embellishment.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, to me, that if you're gonna. Yeah, when you have a dive call and all that, like, why does anybody dive? Like, why don't you just wait for that call? Anytime anybody makes contact with your stick, just drop it and go, oh, hey, he knocked the stick out of my hands. To me, I think the call, like, I don't know, the NHL existed for 100 years without it. We see guys get face washed after every puck drop, every stoppage in play. We see all kinds of mayhem where they go, I'm going to let that go. And this one is almost always called. I know you say it's a judgment call, but almost always it's almost automatic. And I just dislike the call. I don't know why that isn't the embellishment choice. the top choice every time. Just drop your stick. It's easy. I don't even have to fall on the ice or anything. My stick goes on the ice. It's perfect. Anyway, we've got to wrap things up here. We've been going on for a long time here. A couple other things in Belleville. Some nice stuff happening. Who's Philip Daou think he is? He is the Belleville Senators leading scorer with 18 points in 18 games. Gregg, this isn't even a guy who's on an NHL contract. He's got an AHL deal this year, and he had some great chemistry at the end of last year with Xavier Bourgault, and he's off to a really nice start this year. And you've also got Arthur Kaliev with 10 goals in 14 games down in Belleville. Nice to see some big numbers coming out of Belleville, because that's one thing you criticize about the team. There haven't been really any kind of, guys among the American Hockey League leaders production-wise, and we're starting to see it down there, which is a good thing, which includes Stephen Halliday.
Yeah, a decent roster down there this year, right? A little more depth, I think, than past years. I don't know that any of them could play up here. Kaliev, I don't think so. We've seen him up, down, up, down. He's so big and slow, but my God, he can score goals. I don't know that he'd ever get enough opportunities playing with the right line mates in the right situations to be able to produce at that kind of a clip, or even half of that clip in the NHL. Daou, he's not even on an NHL contract. You'd have to sign him first to call him up. Halliday, we've seen. Eventually, Blake Montgomery will be back there next year, I guess, probably leave school in a year or maybe 2 years. So there are some young players down there. I don't know that Bourgault is ever going to get here, right? He's had enough opportunities, but I think they've got guys down there that can produce at the American League level, and that's good for Belleville, right? It puts butts in seats. It helps them grow the game down there, and it helps in the community. Like, it's good to have a good minor league team. There's two kinds of good minor league teams. The one that's stacked with lots of prospects that everybody loves to watch because they're so exciting and they're going to be a pro sometime, or the one that's stacked with some veterans who can put up some points and get some wins on the board and do well in the standings and maybe bring you a championship. I think in that case, that's what they've got in Belleville.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a situation where it's important not to get too excited about it, because you look at the American Hockey League every year, the year-end standings as far as scorers go, there's some guys in there who, you recognize, but okay, that's not an NHL player. That's a name I know, but his NHL window closed a long time ago, but still, a dominant American Hockey League scores. It's just sometimes for some guys, the jump is just too big. That little extra second that you don't have in the NHL it makes all the difference. But nice to see some numbers, though, coming out. And Daou, who knows? He's still only 23 years of age, has not had an NHL look. And so I don't want to close the door on anybody. You think about closing the door on guys, as we saw. You call him Jonathan Apricot, as you were referencing him early days of the podcast. He's been gone for a couple of years now, the former Belleville Senators defenseman Jonathan Aspero. Well, thanks to some injuries with the Boston Bruins on defense, he's gotten an opportunity and making the most of it. He came up late last month and made his NHL debut, and the Bruins can't say enough good things about him. He's now played 10 or 11 games now, and nice to see it. So point being, don't want to close the book on guys that you haven't seen yet in the NHL when they're still only in their mid-20s.
Yeah, nice story, right? Those stories are always nice. A guy who's lingered. Lurk was the word you were using earlier today. He's been a lurker. That's actually a Jenkins. Dan Jenkins created that term for guys that were lurking around the leaderboard on Sunday of a tournament. But anyway, guys that have lurked around in the minors for a long time to get an opportunity to come up and play and play a regular shift. Like, that's great. It's a lovely story. I'm sure the family's proud and everything's great from his first game to today. What do you say? It's 11, 12 games now. Good for him. Good for you. You're doing okay. That's a nice story.
Yeah, and that's why you don't close the book on a Philip Daou, just because he's still relatively young. He's getting old for a prospect, but until you see it all play out, you never really know for sure. My money would not be on him, but my money wasn't on Jonathan Aspero when the Sens 2 years ago decided not to qualify him. And interestingly enough, at a time when the Sens are making desperate left side defense trades, getting guys like Dennis Gilbert, that's a guy that if he was still in the organization probably would have been an option, but not game breakers by any stretch, but nice story all the same. and another good one in Calgary to close out the show. This is a guy named Devin Cooley. He plays for the Calgary Flames, and he's the backup goalie behind Dustin Wolf, who is, seen as one of the best up-and-coming young goalies in the league, though it hasn't been a very good year so far for him so far. He's being outplayed by young Devin Cooley. Wait, no, not young at all. To our discussion just a moment ago about not everybody's washed up in their mid-20s. Here's Devin Cooley coming up, and his stats are way, way better than Dustin Wolf's right now, and he's 28, 29 years old. It's kind of the equivalent, Greg, Jackson Parsons suddenly ended up in the – or not Jackson Parsons. You know what I mean? And I'm combining the two. No. What's his name now? The guy that's Hunter Shepard. No, it's not Jackson. It's Hunter Shepard, who's 28 years old. And if he came up and did all the things that Devin Cooley is doing right now, it'd be the same kind of story that's playing out in Calgary right now. But more than that, the guy, I think the Calgary media is praying that this guy stays for a long time as the backup goalie, or maybe even ascends beyond that, because he's a media darling. Remember Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Kind of gives me that vibe when he talks. So let me get this clip for you from Devin Cooley, the one that everybody's talking about. Talk about keeping your career, your profession, and really, in the big picture, life in perspective.
You really have to ground yourself. So I just I think I've said this before, but I just go nothing matters. Nobody cares. We're all going to die. And I just say that over and over and over again. So that way, I don't get too excited, because as soon as I start getting too excited, I'm like, oh, this could be it. This could be the win. We're playing really well. I'll start doing stupid stuff, and then I'll give up dumb goals because I'm being stupid. And so if I just keep repeating those words over and over again, it just grounds me, and I can just really just stay in the moment and not get too excited.
So there's Calgary Flames goalie Devin Cooley, and he was on with Scott Oak on Saturday night, and talked about that, and basically called Scott Oak dude about 5 or 6 times, it seemed, in there as well. But a great story, and seems like a great kid. Talk about keeping things in perspective, huh?
It's like he rode the buses with Crash Davis. It's like what was Nuke's last name? Nuke Lelouch, or whatever his name was, the Tim Robbins character. Same sort of thing, right? Let's not give, but except it's the opposite. I'm not going to give the stereotypical boring responses. I've done this, I've been there, and yeah, we're all going to die tomorrow anyway. What's it really matter? Or not tomorrow, sorry. We're all going to die someday anyway. What's it really matter? He's having fun and enjoying it. Good for him.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to handle it, not put the pressure of the world on you. And in the big picture, that is true. No matter what is happening today, regardless of its levity or severity, a week from now, we'll barely remember it even happened. And so that's a good way to approach your position where you're really out on an island as a goaltender. And so it's working, at least this year, in the NHL for a guy who's in his late 20s now. And I hope that he hangs out for quite a while in the NHL. With that, we'll call it a day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us today. Our website is sensnationhockey.com. I encourage you to check out as well the Hockey News, Ottawa Senators site, where I'm the site editor over there, thn.com/Ottawa. All kinds of cool articles up there, including one that was gone bananas actually today about Jonathan Aspro that I put up, and some others as well. You still get a kick out of that name, don't you, when you get done?
Apricot, yeah.
So lots of neat stuff.
Goodbye, big voice. We hardly knew you.
Yes. We'll give him one last run here. You don't hear it on YouTube. We don't even use him on YouTube, but for those of you listening on audio only, we'll close it out with one last run of Big Voice. Thank you so much for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you next time. Greg, thanks.
Thanks, buddy. See you.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.